The BeautyVoyage podcast is here for beauty professionals, multi-passionate, entrepreneurial-minded, and interdisciplinary artists. We know you, we see you, and we love you. BeautyVoyage is here to expand beauty education. We're sourcing information from different industries in order to support, inspire, and create community that cares for beauty professionals. We're here to propel you forward, integrating your passions and your desires into your beauty business. BeautyVoyage podcast, and I am Mary Alice, and today we have Civello with us. I'm so excited. He is one of my personal heroes. I took one of his courses at Aveda Congress years ago, and it's just very special for me to get to talk to him again. Thank you for being here, Ray.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to just start off with your story. I want to hear what your path has been like and how, what the beauty industry has looked like from your perspective. So where did it all begin for you?
Well, how much time do we have on this podcast? I am.
Let's have the cliff notes.
I have occupied my place on the planet for a long time. So therefore, I have accumulated a lot of experiences, obviously. But I think we start talking about, what got me interested, of course, and it was I always had a sense of looking at style. I think style is the individual personal style. Like I always noticed little details on people growing up. And my mom was probably the biggest influence of all in that respect, because my mom could sew. My mom had a great eye for all things creative. She could, the food she made was magical. Even if you copied her recipe identically, there was art in that food and there was magic. And you could not do it in the same way that she did it. She was my greatest critic, by the way. She often would tell me when I would do these makeover shows that I would check in with her afterwards on television and say, "How did I do?" She'd go, "Well, you did well, but the other one, well, he was better than you." So, and frankly, she was right. Bill Rowley, for example. Yeah. So I started in high school. I actually was trying to make a decision whether I would go to university and become a teacher. It was really what I thought. I liked education a lot. My heroes and mentors at the time were teachers. I had a grade 8 teacher who was just a phenomenal being, who was so on purpose and wanted to just help all of us to become better people and love learning. And in high school, I was very fortunate to have another teacher, Larry Trafford, who was just a brilliant guy. Got us all to read books that none of us would have read, and we just loved the dialogue and the breakdown. So I was in a state of basically inspiration and wanting to be like them, like we all do. Our heroes, we want to be like our heroes, and they were my heroes at the time. So at the same time, we had a pizzeria. My mom and dad had bought a little pizzeria, and we were working night and day at the pizzeria, and I was making pizzas and delivering pizzas door to door. And I've been entrepreneurial my whole life. So, going way back to, delivering groceries, shoveling snow, cutting grass, newspaper routes. I used to develop newspaper routes and sell them, and then start another one. So when we got to the pizzeria, I was actually doing a number of different things of interest. I was actually going to the racetrack, horse racing track, and I would take bets. There was no computers back then, so I would take bets with different people and go and place them and take a cut from the winnings, and it was ridiculous because it's gambling, and I was a minor.
Amazing.
But I also, in the pizzeria, I owned my own pinball machine, and I owned my own pop machine. So I had a pop machine which I would fill. I bought it, and the same thing with my pinball machine. So I keep all the money, and so I've always been entrepreneurial. Basically, always been very interested in creating business or creating opportunities. And when I say creative, that's creative entrepreneurship, because if I were really to describe myself, I think I'm a creative entrepreneur. I think that's really what I do. I just happen to be in the hair and beauty industry, and I've fallen in love, obviously, a long time ago. But while I was in high school, one of our drivers was an apprentice hairdresser, And he was fantastically dressed all the time. I couldn't believe they delivered pizzas with these big bell bottoms and wedgies and gold chains. I'm like, oh my God, he had streaks in his hair. And I'm like, you're so cool, dude. Like, what do you do? He says, yeah, I'm learning to be a hairdresser. He said, you should come to the salon and see what we do. He said, it's crazy. And, it's just so much fun every day. So I was already keenly aware of my own hair. I had curly hair. And I was really like always, I hated getting my hair cut because it would always end up being this round ball. And I hated that. I wanted my hair to fall. Everybody with curly hair wants their hair to have gravity pull it down. And yet it tends to defy gravity. So we at that time, at least, not anymore, of course, but so I did go to the salon one day, and I ended up serving coffee and sweeping floors and just hanging out and watching how much fun everybody was having. And I started going every other day, and before I knew it, I was there on Saturdays doing shampoos. And then I went to my dad and said, I think I'm going to be a hairdresser. And he said, no, you're not. So we had a long conversation and made a deal, if you will. And I said, look, let me do it for a year. If I don't like it, I'll go back to school. It's only a year. I'm 18. It's not a problem. So I went to school for hairdressing and then got a great job and was apprenticing with a big group of people who had left Fidel Sassoon's in Toronto and had opened a salon 2 doors over. So I got to work with them. And so I got very disciplined training right out of school. I finished school. And then, like in most cases, school doesn't really prepare you to go into the salon. There's a lot more that you don't know, and you don't have enough hours of practice to be confident and being able to do the whole experience. You might be able to cut a haircut, you might be able to apply a color, but there's a lot more to that experience than just cutting and coloring hair, obviously. So I apprenticed and got great training. I actually started doing a lot of color and thought I'd be a colorist, and then I really hated getting my clothes dirty and full of color every day. And I like the immediacy of cutting more so than color. So I became a cutting and styling specialist and went on to work at a place called the Rainbow Room in Toronto, which was really one of the most exciting places that anyone could ever want to work in their entire life. And I just happened to be very fortunate to have landed there. And John Steinberg was the owner of the salon, and Michael Baker. The two of them were just phenomenal mentors and beautiful people. And British and Italian blend. So kind of similar to like a Tony and Guy aesthetic. Like we did a lot of photographic work. We had Academy and we did all the shows. And so I got thrown on stage when I didn't think I was ready, but he knew I was, and he just pushed me out there in front of thousands of people. And I was terrified to do it. And I was shaking so bad. I can remember my hands still shaking because he didn't tell me until we were there that I was going to be doing a haircut on stage.
Wow.
He knew I probably wouldn't have shown up, but he was great. And I remember that haircut, that very first haircut, I was so nervous. I was kind of, keeping my back to the audience so I didn't have to make eye contact with anyone. And this woman who was sitting in the front row called over to me and said, Ray, and she motioned to me to come to the edge of the stage. And I did. She said, you are the most beautiful cutter I've ever seen in my life. And she was a mature woman, a beautiful, mature woman. And I was just like, whoa, thank you. And all of a sudden my shoulders went back and I just got boom, and I went right into gliding through this haircut because you see, sometimes just a kind word from someone, a supportive kind word can help someone to come out and be their best. And so it was a moment I still remember like it was yesterday. It was a big moment for me. Yeah. So, I worked with the Rainbow Room for 5 years, and it was incredible. We had we would host, Trevor Sorby, Irving and Rita Russ, the Tony and Guy group. I remember Roger Thompson from Del Sassoon. These are probably names that a lot of maybe the listeners might not know, but certainly they were of that day. They were the top names. So we were fortunate enough to have all of them, and I have had all of those experiences, wonderful experiences. Yeah. And then I decided after 7 years of being a hairdresser that I would go back to what was my first love, which is a photographer. I didn't mention, I used to go to weddings on Saturday nights with my Polaroid cameras, and I would take pictures of people in the lobbies, and for a dollar for a Polaroid, I'd give them the Polaroid. It was just another way for me to take pictures to make money.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, it was great, actually, and it was fun. And I wore a suit and went in. I looked like I belonged and just took pictures. Just knew where the weddings were, and that's what I would do. but I love photography. So I continue to study, and we're talking about days where we work with film. So all my studies were from books. That's how I learned, and built a dark room and had a studio. And I was shooting all the time, but for me and not for commercial purposes in any way. Then I decided I wanted to go to school and formally learn how to become a photographer. So I registered at the art college. And while I was doing that, I ended up cutting Walter Chin's hair, who's top 10 photographers, fashion photographers in the world today. And I was cutting his hair, and I said, "What do you do?" And he said, I'm a photographer." I had no idea how grand his reputation was. I really didn't know. But never missing an opportunity to promote yourself, I immediately said, "So am I." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I said, so I said, "Would you mind looking at my pictures?" Because I had a portfolio of photographs that I was preparing to present at the school for my audition. And so I put it on his lap while I was cutting his hair. Walter was very, very cool guy. Jamaican Chinese guy, and he had a great accent and great look, and he had spiky really hair. So he loved that I was taking it in. I didn't use a clipper. I was using two shears together, a blade on the inside and a thinning shear on the outside. So I was able to do scissor over comb and get this to lie really flat. And he loved the look. And so we were getting along. And then when you looked at my photographs, he was flipping through the photographs, and he was saying such nice things. Very, very gracious, "Oh, I like this one." But in retrospect, they were all terrible photographs. From a technical point of view, they were, because when we learn something, whether it's cutting hair or taking a picture, we always push the boundaries to understand what the boundaries are. So what I was doing was pushing the film, which is really overexposing it, using lots of filters for stark black and white effects, for example. So it was very graphic and very interesting, but technically, I really didn't know what I was doing. I knew I was getting these effects, but I really didn't understand. I knew the photograph should have gray tones and it blend from white to black, and ultimately, but I wasn't concerned with these things. But he was a brilliant photographer. So at the end of the haircut, he said, "What are you doing the day after?" And I said, "I'll be here doing what I'm doing in my studio, working." And he said, "Would you like to come and do hair on a photo shoot?" And up until that point, I'd only ever done hair for hair, nothing else, for fashion shows or for hair shots for magazines and our own promotions, nothing else. So I said, "Will you pay me?" He said, "Oh, absolutely. I'm going to pay you $450 for the day." Well, at that point, I was making $450 a week. So he was going to pay me $450 for the day to come and do some models, apparently, on set. I had no idea. I brought my equipment to the studio, and I got there, and it was heaven. There were people running around everywhere, setting up lights, and there was a big table full of food, and there was executives there. And I walked in, and he introduced me as the greatest hairdresser ever to live, which was wonderful. Again, that boost of confidence. And it was a band. It was a band doing a jean promotion. They were doing stills for a jean company, for jean retail stores. And
Wow.
so it was a female lead singer and three guys. And I ended up completely changing the look of this band. I mean, I didn't know enough that I could or couldn't do those things. I asked some questions. I said, "Do you want to look more rock and roll?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I started crimping and back combing and really making the hair really knotty and bad and big. And she loved her hair. So when the key person loves their hair, when you're doing it, you become a star, because then the executives are happy, the photographer, everybody's happy. So she loved her hair. And then I cut the guys all into these rockabillys. They were just like kind of, rock. I did these rock and roll rockabillys, longer in the back, and they looked great. And so on that day, my career changed, and I became a session hairdresser. I never got to go to school to be a photographer. I ended up becoming a session hairdresser because Walter kept hiring me and introducing me to all the other photographers in the community. And all I would do during the day, I might do a music video, I might do an ad for a shampoo company, I might do an editorial for a magazine. And then at night I would cut hair in my studio. I still had tons of clients that I'd accumulated. So that was my life. I now went from $450 a week to $2,000 a week, which was a big jump all of a sudden, and a big jump in my career, what I woke up every day and did. And I realized in that moment that you never know who's sitting in your chair, and you never know what day you're going to meet someone who's going to completely change your life. I didn't know Walter Chin was so pivotal in going to change my life and just threw me into this trajectory of activity that I had no idea, both financially, the occupation of what I would do with my time, the things I would learn, and ultimately end up in Paris with him. So I then went to Paris with him too and worked in Paris for a year. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I was a session hairdresser in Paris, doing very well. I had French Vogue, Marie Claire, L'Official. I was getting there. It takes time, of course, because you're breaking into a new market. And I was getting there, and I got recognized as the guy who could make sculpture out of fabric or out of anything. So if you didn't have, if you were trying to do an art project, or if you were doing, if the clothes weren't great and you wanted something, the hair to create a silhouette that would be more exaggerated in some way, I'd get a call and they'd ask me what I thought. And, so I got to give a lot of input creatively too, which was terrific.
Wow.
And then one morning I woke up and I realized that I didn't want to be just one part of the photograph. And I knew that I wanted more. I wanted to have more control. I also didn't like freelancing. I didn't like that I would only work certain days and not others. That was really, for me, it was very tedious. I couldn't occupy my time productively. So I'm that person that my balance isn't like other people's balance. I work all the time. I love what I do. I'm working, and I don't have to, I separate simply by when I need to go and do something else. I don't separate because it's a weekend. I don't separate like other people might. After dinner, I go back to work and I don't mind. I actually get excited because I have things to do. So I'm different than and quite frankly, that's probably my point of difference as an entrepreneur, is that I'm willing. As a hairdresser, I'm willing to, I was willing to work, get up earlier and probably stay a lot later and never say no to people. So I decided that I would come back to Canada, and I opened an agency in Canada. I was the first one to open an agency to represent talent, which is freelance hairdressers, makeup artists, wardrobe, props, photographers. So I became a production house. That was amazing experience. So I was doing art direction for magazines, for editorial spreads. I completely had and only time I ever did hair was when it was an art project, when somebody wanted something very specific, or a shampoo commercial where, there was a lot of dollars and the hair had to be absolutely perfect. So, but that was it. And then, from there we started opening salons in 1989, and we opened Civello salons, and that was another big elevation. We became maybe the most popular salons in Canada very quickly, and we got Aveda's attention, and I got invited to go and meet Horst, and met my mentor, that one brilliant man, brilliant person, who created Aveda. For those who may not know who that is, Horst Reckelbacher. And Horst took me under his wing. He really loved me. I loved him, and I learned all kinds of things about life and about business and about hair, and I was a very willing student to want to participate and help Aveda, which I became the creative director for Aveda. I was VP of education globally for Aveda at one point, distributor for Canada with my family for 29 years. So we helped put Aveda on the map. I created lots of curriculum, cutting curriculum, in particular, the current cutting curriculum that's used in all the schools. I was the director of that project. So I love the education side of it, and I love the creative side of it, and I love the product making side of it, which I helped make some products as well with Aveda. So all of those things. I mean, this journey, I'm talking as fast as I can. I'm not letting you say anything. Those are a lot of things, and so trying to benchmark them all. But that's sort of been the steps. Those have been the big steps in my career.
That is so incredible. I personally just love how interdisciplinary your life has been, and I think that that's so special. And so there's so many people in our industry that have those qualities too. But what I love is that you were able to just like keep pivoting, or keep like just, okay, this is what's next. This is what's next. Like what do you think makes you able to just like close one chapter and just be fully immersed into the next? Because that sounds like so important.
Well, a little bit of sort of many things, I guess, but I think you still have to feel it. You still have to feel a desire to still You still have to feel like you have opportunity to grow, that you still enjoy the process of challenging yourself. Because for a lot of people, they wouldn't define or next chapters as fun. They would define it as very hard to pivot from something that you achieved very good or great success at, if we measure success in, monetarily, and also achieving certain things and making certain things. And so I think you have to. I almost don't even know if you're really asking yourself a lot of questions at the time that you're actually happy. I think it's an organic evolution more than anything else, but it does come from deep down inside that you're saying to yourself, I have another idea. I have another idea. I have another idea. Like making products now at this point in my career, it wasn't an easy decision in some respects, but at the same time, I knew I had to do it because I didn't want to not do it and then look back and ever say I should have, right? So I knew it was the right time to do it, and that's what we're doing.
And it's amazing how, like, when I'm listening to your story, it's like it's so clear how it compiles, and it's like, oh, of course you did the agency, you had the photography, you had this, like it all just, the dots connect. But when you're living it, you don't see the connected dots yet. And I think that's so beautiful, and that's just a talent of being able to trust that they are connecting, and that it's like, it's not like you were saying, it's not a loss of something, it's a continuation. And that's so amazing. Described or concepts that we had learned in your class. Can we revisit some of those concepts again? It's been so long and I've been dying to go back to that. I wish I could go back to that class so many times and just like be a fly on the wall again.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for coming to that class. It was a very personal development in for me, because it reflected a lot of what I was doing, and I wanted to share it, which is what we do most of the time, right? We're going through a process, and then we go, wait, if I'm going through it, others must be going through it, and if I learn anything, shouldn't I also share this with other people? So that was part of it. So creativity became something I became deeply involved in, just the whole topic of creativity. Read a lot about what is the process, how does the brain work, what is actually happening in this so-called world of creativity, because some people think it's just this random thing that happens. And actually, I don't believe that's really what creativity is at all. I think it can happen that way, but I don't think that we can rely on it happening that way. So if we're in a creative job, then part of creativity is problem solving and learning how to problem solve, learning how to assess the situation constructively, and then to be able to come up with a solution. But it's not just a solution. It may be a variety of different solutions. And that is really the creativity part of it. That's where we really can apply what we think might work. So, for me, I was going through creativity, and I realized, I was still challenging myself about, in school, why didn't I do well in school? I'm a relatively intelligent person, yet I didn't do that well. I did well in certain subjects and then did really poorly in others. Well, clearly I wasn't that interested, and I didn't apply myself. And I don't have a photographic memory so that I can go and do an exam and remember the answers, even though I have no connection to them whatsoever. And I realized that the way I actually work is I'm deeply connected to everything I'm doing. That's really where I am. I'm present in what I'm doing. Therefore, it's very fluid all the time. It's always moving. It's not still. And so I can't remember or memorize. That's not something I can do because I don't apply myself to that. So Edward de Bono became very important because I started reading Edward de Bono's work, Oxford professor Edward. He's the one who coined the phrase lateral thinking. That was his phrase. And I was in the salon one day, and I'm cutting hair, busy salon. I used to do 20 clients a day. I was very, very busy behind the chair as well. And largely because, not because I was the best hair cutter in the world, but because I knew that I had to make a connection with people, and that connection was what brought people in and kept them with me. And so I worked on always making people feel great about being in the salon. And that was, maybe if I had a gift as a hairdresser, that was probably one of them that really worked for me. And there we were, busy as anything. And all of a sudden, this guy comes into the salon with a big green hat box, massive green hat box. Delivery for Ray Civello, delivery. And of course, the salon is packed. So everybody's now looking at me, and I'm embarrassed. And I don't know how they got past the front desk. with this big hat. And so I have to sign for it, and it's a courier. So I take the box, I put it down by my station, I sign for it, and I go back to cutting hair. Well, of course, the whole salon is stopped now, and they want to know what's in this hat box. And I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, fine. So I open the hat box, and it's an invitation to go to a course called Six Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. And I had never heard of it. And it had a green hat, little top hat in it as well. So obviously that kind of delivery is one of those purple cow moments, you got my attention, you got everybody's attention. I can't just not want to know who sent this, how did this get to me? So obviously it's one of my clients actually who'd had various conversations with me over the years that knew I was interested in creativity, that knew I was interested in learning, who had actually sent me the box with the invitation to go to the course. So I went to the course, and I actually went to many more courses and became certified in Six Thinking Hats, and understanding this process that our brain actually works in 6 different ways at the same time, but it has a dominant way that we think. Each of us chooses that. By the age of 2, we've pretty much decided which way we're going to see the world. Wow. And so, you can, there is, the different parts of it, I won't get through all of it, but, like, for example, the white hat represented data, like paper, like information only, objective. Just don't give me any emotions attached to the information. Blue hat was looking at changing where your perspective is from down here and getting up here. So it's like a blue sky way of looking down at it from a different perspective. Red was your heart, totally emotional, right? Your red hat. So don't think about it. Just tell me what you feel. How do you feel about it, right? And yellow was caution, exercise caution. And black was absolutely negative. Be as negative as you possibly can, which a lot of people are naturally, and that's their dominant hat, right? A lot of people wear the black hat. And then the green hat was the creative. It's the what if hat. It's the what if hat. What if it wasn't? So I used to run all my meetings using Six Thinking. If we had to decide something, I'd say, everybody be as negative as you can. Tear this thing apart. And I go, what's the facts? Let's just look at the facts. What should we be cautious about, right? Let's look at it from a bigger picture. Like, how does this look in 5 years from now? Right. And then what if we could do it? What would it look like if we could? And that's how we ran for years. We ran meetings that way. And it was fun because everybody's included. Also, in creativity, you want to make sure everybody's included. If you're working with a group in creativity, and that's where I found Hoshin, for example, was another wonderful technique that elicits from a group of people without anybody feeling ego, without anybody feeling hurt or left out, where everybody's opinions matter, because a lot of it's done without even talking. Half of it's done without even talking. Right?
Yeah,
it's all moving things around. And so that exercise deals with the absolute logistical and linear part of your brain, right, which we refer to as half of our brain, and the other half of the brain, which is very random, it's just very emotional, right? The primary brain. So when we put these two things together, that exercise allows us to work just from emotions and very random without sequencing. And then we organize this random thinking that we have. We put it into a sequence, and then we prioritize. What did we get from this? And we have wonderful learning for everybody. So all our hair shows, for example, every hair show we've ever done is always done with Hoshin, where everybody brings ideas and then we debate them, we talk about the ideas, and everybody, it's such an inclusive process. Because, if you just sit around and go, what's your idea? What's your idea? I don't like your idea. What happens? That person gets to feel very, and they'll never offer anything again because they didn't feel validated, they didn't feel valuable. So
yeah, well, I get the chills when I think back to this moment, because I remember you saying this and I looked around at your team and I could tell that it was true, because you said elevate everyone and remember that there are no dumb ideas, because we don't know where in the brain it's coming from. And that has totally changed like how I have worked in groups, even beyond hair stuff, because that moment it was just clicked, because you gave this example of like, maybe, you're talking about a circus and someone says, let's bring in like, I don't know, something that's seemingly unrelated to a circus theme or whatever, but you don't know their connection to that. And that was so profound for me. And I wanted to know more about the silent part. Like, how does that work, and how does that part begin?
Yeah, that's after everyone has dumped their random ideas all over the floor, for example, or on a big wall, right? So then in silence, everyone works together, but in silence, you're now starting to group the ideas together. So if it was images, you'd say, what connects this image to this image? What connects this image to, and all of a sudden you start to see these lines start to form. And in silence, never a discussion. So if you felt that an image over here actually worked better over here, you saw a different connection that whoever put it over here. So you'll take it and put it over here. And the idea is not to grab it and put it back, but to try to understand and see if you can see what they're seeing. What's their connection in here? And if you think there's another connection that might be more powerful, you are allowed to put it back, but you can't just keep moving back and forth. At some point, for the sake of the team's sake, you can, because you'll have an opportunity to dialogue about it afterwards. But in the and it only stops the silent movement when all the lines are completed and no one touches them. You can decide if it's 5 minutes, if no one touches them for 5 or 10 minutes, and that then becomes the final group consensus that these are the ideas that all of our brains randomly, we have now created 5 ideas that didn't exist before. They were never, we could have sat there for a week and never come up with those 5 ideas. And yet we were able to do it within 35 minutes. It's amazing how powerful it is.
Oh gosh, yeah, it removes so many of those barriers. Yeah, that is so exciting. And yeah, what were some of the other concepts? So it's like elevate everyone, no ideas are stupid, using processes, but then what else?
Well, we eliminate judgment this way, right? When you and judgment, I mean, there is a place in judgment. In other words, you're not going to jump off of a cliff. You can use judgment, know that that's going to hurt and kill yourself. You probably don't want your heart surgeon to start wanting to be creative and just getting all random. You probably want them to follow protocol, or a pilot. You don't want them to change all of a sudden, start flipping the plane around just to want to be more creative. But judgment really robs people of seeing more, of seeing potential, of seeing, the opportunity. And, when I hear things like, oh, we judge people within the first, 6 seconds, we have a judgment call on who they are and what they are. I think this is it's a very biased and very subjective and delusional in some ways, quite frankly, because it's your illusion, right? So it's delusional, and you're not right. And so we really rob ourselves of a lot of things that are here to experience, because we're no longer present. The second you've judged it, you're no longer here. You've already decided you're out. You've opted out. You're out. You're not. Here's my statement. Here's my signature. I'm out. Right? Yeah. Because instead of saying I have no idea, like I don't know. People are terrified to say I don't know. Yeah. I don't know is open. Now we can get some stuff in here because I don't know. But everybody wants to walk around going, I know, I already know that. Nobody wants to look vulnerable. And yet the most creative things live in the vulnerability. They live in the unknown, and they live in the question to be discovered in that process. So I think that, the judgment, I think judgment is probably the enemy of all creativity, and get comfortable with what you know. No, don't get comfortable, get uncomfortable, challenge your own thinking. Today, you might think it was like this. Tomorrow, maybe challenge yourself again to think and be open to other people and what they might have to say. Not be influenced by everybody. This is a little different. I'm not saying, be influenced by everyone. Not necessarily. You have to have an idea of where you and who you are. You do have to have a connection to yourself. However, there's the different parts of us, right? We have a brain, and we have a heart, and we have a body, we have a spirit. And this brain, sometimes there's 4 parts of the brain as well. And there's ego, which sometimes dominates the whole thing. And when ego starts to control the whole thing, the whole process, you're completely out of balance. And if you're completely out of balance, you can't really be connected to yourself. But because we have layers of ego is important. It's a great motivator, but it shouldn't control, right? It has to get you out of bed and excited to get there because you want to be better, but it shouldn't be the controller of what you do. No. So I think judgment, I think if anybody is, wants to try to focus on their own personal creativity, there's a great course called, oh my God, I've forgotten, The Artist's Way. The artist's way. It's a very simple course, but basically, it's the wonderful part about it is you wake up every morning. It's called the morning papers, and you have to write 5 pages of whatever this random meandering thought process that's coming out every morning before you have coffee, before you do anything. Just you write these 5 pages. In the beginning, it feels kind of weird, but you're doing it. But what you start to realize is very quickly you're dumping the stuff, you're emptying your brain. And when the brain is empty and it's got like quiet going on, that's when it's the most fertile. That's when it's the most peaceful. That's when it's really present. And you can start to really see things, beautiful things, and start to, create within that space.
Beautiful. Yeah, I really love how there's like this consciousness I'm learning from you in this conversation of like, obviously being creative is so many people in our space are so passionate about that, and that's like their driving force. But I love thinking about it like that there's a time for this like loose creativity, and then there's a time for like using your creativity in a purposeful, more structured way, and that they're not really separate, they're just different pieces of creativity.
Yeah, the other part of that is take that, and then you have to have a practice, right? So this is now you have an idea, and you can train your mind and your spirit, if you will, to adjust to eliminating this judgment and start to formulate some very unique ideas. But you must then practice. You have to practice. So if it's a craft like hairdressing, you have to practice a lot to get to that place where your level of competency just keeps getting better and better and better, to the point where you start to do a haircut, but you're just you're inventing where you're going because you just know so much and you're so good at it, right? That's the best place to be as a craftsperson, is to be able to adjust, whether it's a razor or scissors, it doesn't matter, a clipper. I can do it with everything and do it differently each time, and I can start at the front, the back, the side, the top, it doesn't matter. I will create beautiful things because I am so confident in what I've done, and I love the creativity or the spontaneity to be able to use my craft that way. So that's the combination: connecting with another individual, not judging, creating something that helps that person's own identity, right? Who are they? Too often hairdressers think their job is to put their identity on the person as if they were putting a dress on their hair. It's not. It's not how it's done. It's to look at the person and connect with them and say, who they are, who do you see yourself as? Make that connection to understand better how they want the world to see them. And their hair then doesn't become an accessory. It becomes part of their identity, right? And my job is to try to connect that and then use my skill, my aesthetic, my aesthetic style and sensibility, and then try to create a shape that's flattering to the face, to the body, right? And then a texture and a movement and a style that is complementary to their personality, so that they feel comfortable in it, that it's them, right? Not somebody else. So you can do a great bob, a graduated bob, you can do a layered bob on somebody, but it may not be the most flattering shape on that body. It might not, it might be too square, too wide. And that person may not like that, might be too structured for them. They wanted something looser, they wanted something softer, and it can make them feel very uncomfortable. That bob may have been the best bob anyone has ever done in their whole life, but it's not the appropriate person to put that haircut on. So it is understanding. The practice will get you there, though. The more you connect with people, and you practice on mannequins, you practice on people, always carry your tools with you. You never know. I used to cut hair in bars, and I'd go to parties and be in the bathroom cutting hair because I love it all the time. I got tons and tons of clients. They go, people would go to work the next day. They go, "What'd you get your haircut on?" Yeah, you look great. Yeah, this guy named Ray was cutting hair in the bathroom at this party I was at on the weekend. And I'd do whatever, like 4 or 5 haircuts in a party. And I'd get all these clients from it because it was different. It wasn't, here's my card, come and see me. It wasn't. It was a unique way to recruit, which is very important as well.
Wow, I love it. Well, you've spoken a bit about a lot of your mentors along the way, but what are some elements that you think make a good mentor?
Well, they have to care deeply about sharing what they have. They have to care deeply about how that benefits other people. If they don't care, they're not a good mentor. They might know a lot, but they're not going to, you can learn from anybody. I mean, you can learn from bad things also, really. You can learn when somebody is bad at doing something, you can learn that, hey, I don't want to do that. So you may call that a mentor too, right? But the most profound are the ones that make you feel better, the ones that help you to become a better version of who you can be, those who believe in you, and then have the skills to be able to help you to in your practice of being a better person. So, I think my mom and dad, of course, are my two most profound mentors. Without them and the way that they raised all of us, we were extremely fortunate to have had them as our mentors. The example of how they lived, their values, their love, their unconditional love. They didn't tell any of us what we should do with our life. They didn't try to control us. They were beautiful. So, I say that probably within that grounds me in pretty much everything else. And I would say, I love Van Council, David Wag. These are all great buddies of mine, and they've also been great mentors as well. And Gian Antonio Negretti, who I just met a few years ago in Italy, is a brilliant guy, and he's just a great mentor. He cares deeply about everyone in the industry, and he's another fantastic being. Horst and John Steinberg, as I mentioned before, of course, Horst. I sat by Horst's side for a number of years and listened to pretty much everything he said, and then I tried to take his vision and make it into Aveda, help it along to expand on a global level. And I thought he had a very unique way of teaching too. Sometimes it wasn't for everyone for sure, but it worked very, very well for me. So mentoring is first of all, if you want to be a mentor, you have to have the skills, of course, to pass on. You have to have structure, but you have to care deeply about that person and they becoming better, a better version of themselves. And I don't mean it in an absolute maternal or paternal way. Like, it's not about wrapping your arms around them and saying it's okay. I don't mean it that way. I don't. Actually, sometimes you have to be tough with people to get them to really realize what their opportunity is. One of my favorite sayings when I'm working with someone in that role as a mentor is, I'll say, I know this wasn't your best work today. I know you can do better, which means I know you're better than what you're giving me today.
Yeah, that's good.
Total faith in you that when you hand me whatever it is you're going to show me the next time, it's going to be even better. And that does make people, I think it's a good way to position things to help people. I also constantly reinforce how it's not BS. You have to find the things you think are really about them, uniquely about them, not generalizations. Oh, you're amazing. No, what is it amazing about you, right? It might be that your heart is amazing, right? You have such a gentle approach to life, and I love that about you. That's unique. That's you. So that person then feels validated that the mentor sees them for who they are, not for just anyone. And then that makes the mentoree want that much more to work hard, to please themselves, of course, and of course their mentor.
Yeah. And that investment, and it's like the trust that builds trust too. Would you advise people to find those people?
Oh, I think you can, the type of success that you might be looking for, always leaves clues. It's not like the trail is empty. You just have to watch people. You have to be willing to do the research and watch people. And then when you see someone that you admire, that you think is someone that could help you in your journey, you have to approach them. You just have to go to them and offer any opportunity. Can I have a coffee? Can I have a lunch? I just have 20 questions I just need to ask you as a starting point, and most people will respond very positively to something like that and are intrigued by the person who's gone through the trouble to actually do the research and want to know more about them. And so it may not always be, I want to come and work with you. It may be that I need support from you. Peter Gray, for example, is a great hairdresser. Peter Gray mentors a whole bunch of people, and there's at least a handful of them that he's never met, but he does it all, of course, through Instagram, and he's able to communicate with them. He's able to give them feedback on the imagery that they're working on. And we were just at the awards in Atlanta, and one of the young fellows won an award and gave credit to him. And yet that was the first time they'd ever met, was that night, and it had been going on for years. So it's interesting. Yeah. So you can mentor people, especially now with technology. You can mentor people from a distance, and that's very cool.
That is so cool. Thank you. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to hear about, well, my last question would be, I want to hear about your product line. And then my last question is, what would your dream for the industry be?
I'm sorry, what would my what for the industry?
What would your dream for the future of the industry be?
Which would do you want me to answer first? You want me to answer that first?
Yeah, let's answer that one first.
I feel very, very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity to play so many different roles in this industry. And so what I would love is for us to be able to show young people, prospects coming into the industry, how much real opportunity there is in this particular industry. Because unfortunately, I think the perception, and I think you mentioned this earlier, I think the perception based on stereotypes more than anything else is that it's limited. Right. And so their approach is, I guess if I can't do anything else, maybe I'll try that. And we're losing people in the first year, there's so many people exiting the industry. So I think that there's a real opportunity, because we need the feeder system. We need young people to come in to our industry. We've always needed them, but more than ever, because there are so many other options for young people today that are more attractive, at least. And so I think my dream would be that we find a way to attract people by showing them truly how much opportunity there is and how amazing it is to be a hairdresser.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about the product line too?
Well, Color Space launched 2 years ago. Color Space is the product and the concept of my wonderful and amazing partner, Lupe Voss. And Lupe is, of course, I think one of the premier educators in hair color in the world. And so we got together about 3 years ago and put our thoughts together and thought we can and will make a beautiful product line. And we use incredible science and education and support. And we're going to do things for the salon industry that is a big opportunity that, a lot of the larger manufacturers perhaps cannot do or have not been able to do for a long time. So we saw a wonderful opportunity to give back for all the things that we knew as being salon owners, being stylists and educators. We knew there was an opportunity to create something very unique and very special. And we have an incredible machine that mixes and heats hair color to body temperature, which some people don't know, but hair color doesn't begin to process until it reaches body temperature. So we are able to do that ahead of time. We have a micro dye that's tiny, and so it penetrates into the cortex, and you get great shine and no fading. So there's so many characteristics to our product line that are really cool, as well as the price point, of course, which all salons need to really watch their dollars because they've got to make good profits. So we were very conscientious about things like that. And then 8 weeks ago, we launched Back a Bottle, or Bob, which is 26 beautiful products, shampoos, 7 shampoos and conditioners, and styling products and treatments. And we're so excited to bring this very inclusive and diverse aesthetic and product line to the world of hairdressing. It's a super ultra clean, high performance, ultra clean, green and sustainable packaging. 4 years in the making. We're so proud of it, and we think it's beautiful. Again, botanical, wonderful aromas. Very exciting. It's going very, very well.
Well, it looks beautiful. So I'm excited to explore the products and learn more about them. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and for giving me your time today and sharing with us all of that wisdom.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And I will send you some backup bottle.
Okay, I would love that. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, is it it's outside of Canada, right?
Actually, it's primarily in the US. Both Color Space and Back a Bottle are primarily in the US. We haven't launched Canada actually yet, even though
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ray. Yeah, I'm so just inspired and excited to have learned more about you, and I really appreciate your time. And where can people learn more about you? That's the last thing.
Well, backabottle.com, obviously, for Bob, and Color Space. colorspace_hair.com is,
Okay.
I think that's our website. But
We'll put it in the show notes too.
get
So
it in there, yeah.
can
So
take
yes,
pictures.
please go on our website, have a look, and see all the beautiful things that we're doing, and catch us on social media. We've got a lot of things going on. It's really fun.
Beautiful.
Thank you.